Great. Hello. Hi, Alex.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good, good.
Yeah,
Can you
thank you
hear
so
me all
much.
right?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can.
Great.
My AirPods went through the washing machine a couple of months
Oh,
ago, so
no.
sometimes they work and sometimes they
Okay, well, we're hoping
don't.
for some good connection today. Thank you so much for joining us today. And for
Yeah.
everyone who's joining us on our Instagram Live, I'll just go through your credits a little bit here. So Alex Hairston has spent some time performing with the Norwegian Cruise Lines and as well as performed in the national tour of Motown the Musical. And in 2019, you made your Broadway debut in the hit musical Beautiful, the Carole King musical, which we love here in San Francisco, as Janelle Woods. Most recently, you were touring the country, including San Francisco last December as Disco Donna in Summer, the Donna Summer Musical.
Mhm.
And yeah, we're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me as a guest. I'm excited to chat and answer some questions.
Great. And yes, and if you're watching live, feel free to leave a question in the questions box on Instagram, or you can leave them in the chat, and we'll get to them as we go on. So first, I just wanted to ask, how are you doing? We actually have a question here from a fan. This is from Curdy Niner. Well, what have you been doing since quarantine? The musicals have been shut down for about 6 months now, and yeah, what have you been up to? Have you been staying creative during this time?
Yeah, okay, so when the quarantine first went into effect, I have to say I was a little bit like I had like a little breath of like, oh, okay, I'm gonna see the glass half full of this, and I was kind of glad for a little break.
Mm,
Because although it's a good problem to have, I had been kind of going for basically 3 years. I went right from the Motown tour to rehearsals for Beautiful, right from ending that to rehearsals for summer and starting summer. So the first couple weeks I honestly did nothing like intentionally.
mhm.
I wasn't even working out. Like I was just like breathing and resting and watching movies and
Yeah.
like binge watching Handmaid's Tale and just being a couch potato basically. And then I was like, okay, I am starting to feel like my body is yelling at me. I need to go for a walk. Now I need
Mhm,
to
mhm.
go for a run. Now, that sort of thing. So after kind of vacation mode left, I was like, all right, time to get creative again because it's hard to not be creative when that
Mhm.
is, like the passion inside of you.
Right.
Um, so I actually just recently relocated to Chicago for a bit, and I'm teaching at a performing arts academy, and we do, socially distanced, fully masked classes.
Oh, great.
And I'm teaching virtually for a couple of studios. I'm teaching virtually for the School of the Arts in North Carolina, which is actually where I went to high school.
Oh, awesome.
So just lots of like little virtual teachings, in-person teachings, keeping creative that way. And I just finished being a part of the Baldwin Project,
Mm,
which was a racial and socially justice driven project where we took a James Baldwin speech, made it into monologues, and then paired that with like personal creative pieces for how we feel the material relates to our lives and just everything that's going on now that is sadly a clear reflection and continuation of everything that was happening in the 50s, 60s, 70s. So that was also cool to be a part of too, because it let me have not only a creative outlet, but
mhm.
also kind of an emotional outlet just for everything that's going on. So
Great.
trying to
And
stay
then,
creative.
yeah, that's awesome. And that's and the Dream and Realize the James Baldwin Project. That's something that will be on Broadway on demand, correct?
Yes, it is. So it
Great.
was originally going to just be up for a week. Then they extended it for a second week, and now they've decided to keep it on because they believe it's going to be a great teaching tool, which I agree with. So
Great.
definitely
That's
check that
really
out.
wonderful. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. And so yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about Summer, the Donna Summer musical.
Hmm.
So you were at the performing at the Golden Gate Theater
Hmm.
last December. I was fortunate to see you both in San Francisco, and I also saw you at the Pantages in Los Angeles.
Oh, good, good,
I
good.
love the show, so much fun. And I just want to know, just generally, what was your favorite part about playing Disco Dawn and being a part of this production?
So many things. It's hard to pick a favorite. So this was my first professional lead. So that was like a huge accomplishment for me, and also a huge challenge because
Mm.
it's quite different from being in the ensemble. And what I really loved and what I really kind of attached to about the role was finding the parallels in my life and in Donna's life. And the more that I learned about her, she actually began to be like a teacher and mentor to me, even though it's
Mhm.
just through, secondhand through her husband and her friends and her publicist and her book and all the people around her who loved her and would come to the show and tell us stories and that sort of thing. But I loved that. I loved that as a 27-year-old young Black performer, was researching in depth the life of this woman who, by my age, had already conquered so much and, had trailblazed and had multiple albums out and was performing these huge arenas and was the queen of disco. So I loved that because, it was not only, oh, I get to research and be this cool woman, but it was like, oh, this is definitely going to influence me for the rest of my life and set kind of lessons in place for me to learn as I grow.
That's great. And what was your process in bringing such an an iconic real person to life on stage?
So in rehearsals, I was already, or sorry, in rehearsals, in auditions, I was
Mm.
already reading her memoir. So that was cool to just see kind of from her perspective and her point of view. And then as we got into rehearsals, actually her husband Bruce came in and he
Mm.
talked to us. We got to, many times I've met and chatted with Brian, the real life Brian, who was one of her best friends and her publicist. So I just tried to collect all of the information and the little bits that I could. And while it's impossible to completely duplicate or emulate someone, we tried, and I say we, meaning all three Donnas, we tried as much as we could to bring the essence of Donna to life. So, listening to her albums and listening to the little isms in her voice or the little things that make the song iconic, but also realizing that she was a whole person. She's quite funny. She had this kind of special, slightly dry sense of humor that you can definitely tell in like radio interviews or in her book and things like that. So just finding the moments where it wasn't just always either A, this like superstar pop diva, or B, this, kind of like fierce business focused woman, but she was also funny and she was loving. And anytime you talk to someone who knew her firsthand, that's the first thing they said was she loved her fans, she loved her music, she loved her kids and her family. We got to meet her daughter Mimi
Oh,
and her daughters, so Donna's granddaughters, and they all have this light and this energy about them that I can just tell is something that Donna had. So just little bits like that, trying to incorporate that into scenes and into the song, which I hope I made her proud.
yeah, and for those watching who might not have seen some of the Donna Summer musical, there were three actresses that played Donna at different stages of her life. We have you that played Disco Donna. We had
Hmm.
Olivia Elise Hardy, who played Duckling Donna, who played a younger version of Donna, and
Hmm.
Danielle Williamson, who played Diva Donna, who Donna Summer in her later in life. And so you have three actresses playing one woman, one character. And so what was that like working with two other people to create a cohesive character, a cohesive journey for the audience?
It was really exciting and actually very helpful. I
Mm.
think, as a performer, sometimes you can think like, well, sharing the spotlight, that's got to be really hard to do. But actually, it was so helpful because we all got to kind of learn from each other
Mm.
and really go through the stages of her life. So Olivia played her kind of in the younger, like 12 to 15, and then I would pick up and play her from like 16 to 30, and then Danielle would kind of take over the latter part of her life, and we all kind of intertwined throughout that time. So sometimes one person would be narrating a moment while somebody else and reenacted it. So we really all got to tag team with each other. And I loved that because, to play Donna, for one person to play such a superstar icon, like that's a huge responsibility and that's a huge workload and like just a lot to put on one person. So it was kind of like sharing the workload, but also, you know, again, just being able to be like, oh, I like the way that she did that. Or I would see something Olivia would do and I'd be like, oh, okay, so if that's what she did when she was younger, I can see how that could have developed and affected, you know, what happened later on. Or just also just as an actor outside of the character, being able to, you know, be on stage with powerhouses like Danielle Williamson. I mean, the voice just every night, the voice, it was just amazing. So I actually really appreciated being able to have the three of us take on the role.
Yeah, I'm sure that and you can gather support on stage from your fellow actresses to really, and yeah, being in the audience, I could really feel that energy. So for people that didn't see it, so it was set up like a concert of Donna Summers and taking her through her life. And what were your favorite audience reactions? I'm sure, I mean, when I saw it both times in LA and SF, like people were on their feet at the end and just really dancing, and it was so much fun. And what have been your favorite audience reactions or any stage door moments that really stuck with you?
Yeah, so two things. The first thing is we would get people who said, oh, this is my second time seeing it. This is my third time seeing it. And that to me is the greatest compliment, because not only did you take a risk and spend your money once to come see it, but you loved it so much, you came back again. So for someone to tell me like I saw the show multiple times is just the biggest compliment ever to me. And I loved that people were up on their feet, because typically, you know, the audience etiquette, you know, you sit quietly, you clap between, and at the end, you know, you clap again. But our show just completely took that etiquette and like smashed it to pieces, and we wanted you up on your feet. And so to have Last Dance start and people are just like, you know, they're like, I can't help it anymore. I have to get up. I have to dance. Those were the best times. Absolutely loved that. Like just an instant, like, pop of energy that would happen. And you would see kind of like a popcorn of audience members do it, you know, there'd be like one in the front row, one kind of in the back, two over here, two over there, and then finally everyone would just go, oh, screw it, get up.
That's great. And I have a question here from a fan. This is from Ray Athena, and Ray asks, what's the best part about being a performer? Any memorable moments? And we can tailor this to Summer. What have been, because you got to perform so many iconic numbers. What have been your favorite ones to perform on stage?
All of them. I know that's like not a good answer, but so I think what was hard for me to get used to in the show was having those self-indulgent moments, because they're literally written in, you know, like for instance, Love to Love You, towards the end of the song, it's so I kind of start the song as the younger, you know, more innocent, just kind of experimenting in the naughty kind of sexual world. And then by the time I finish the song, I'm on stage in front of thousands really performing the song, and they bring me this floor length mink coat and the spotlight hits, and I've got on these like diamond shoes. And so it was getting used to those moments when normally as an actor or a performer, you're like, okay, it's not about me. It's not about me. I'm giving, I'm receiving, I'm giving it back. And just getting used to those moments. And it was like, no, honey, it's about you. Like you're center stage and just live in it. So, you know, Love to Love You. And then again in Hot Stuff, just like this amazing ensemble that made up our show, just like working it in the back. And yet here I am in the center in this full sequined dress, just flailing and legs and splits and stuff like that. So, so it was the hardest thing to get used to, but then also so exciting and so gratifying and so fun. That's what kind of every night I would never get used to it and never get tired of it.
Great. And you mentioned performing with the ensemble. I actually spoke to Kylie Ray and to John Gardner earlier, who were both in Summer at the Donna Summer musical with you. And something that I talked to Kylie about was, so she was part of the ensemble. It was Summer has a majority female ensemble, which is really really exciting about the show. And what was it like to be supported by this ensemble of women and get to perform with them every night?
Yes, amazing. amazing. And I'm just so grateful because it really is one of those shows that can't have a weak link.
Mm.
And we didn't. Everyone was just on it. And I'm so grateful for that because I really couldn't have done the show that I did without them. If you didn't see the show, there's no intermission. It goes straight through. It's like 95 minutes nonstop. The train takes off from the station and it doesn't stop. And I left the show or left the stage 3 times
Oh,
in
wow.
those 95 minutes.
Yeah.
So it was like I was just, finish a scene, turn around, you're in another scene, walk through, make a quick change on stage, you're in another scene. So I really depended on everyone else being on their A game so that I could just get through it. And they're just incredible. Really, I couldn't have asked for a better group of people on and off stage. Going into the project and hearing that it was mostly women, you kind of have that thought of, oh gosh, sometimes a large group of women together can be kind of scary. But it was so wonderful. And I think it was the fact that everyone was so strong and so fierce and so talented and focused that we were just all in it to win it. And it's just the fact that they could do this sexy number as this like hot, beautiful disco woman, and then literally go put on a tuxedo and flats and be this like masculine, what do you want to call it? Like financial district kind of lawyer person. It just blew my mind. In literally 45 seconds, walk off stage, come back on, completely new demeanor, completely new character. So incredible.
It was definitely incredible to watch. And if you're just tuning in, I'm talking to Alex Hairston, who played Disco Donna in the Donna Summer musical. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And thanks for joining us. And yeah, I wanted to ask you, what was your audition process like, and what was your journey getting to play Disco Donna in this musical?
Well, when I first saw the show, I saw it on Broadway and I was in like the very back of the back balcony. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to play this role. Like this, I just have to. Like this role is me. I have to do it. And so I saw the audition notice go out and I immediately emailed my agent and I was like, they're having auditions for a tour. I definitely want to get in there. And he's like, absolutely, we're gonna get you in there. And so I started going in and I was doing like a packet that they send you, like a Donna Summer packet for disco. And it's a little bit like medley of like 20 seconds of a couple of different songs in the show. And from there was like a cut that was made. And then we went in and did that again. And also had a dance audition and then another cut. And then we came in and had a couple work sessions. So I went in and I just worked on the scenes with the director, the associate director. And then I went in and did just a work session on the music with the music director. And then came in again and had another dance audition where we did some partnering, which is so important because, again, a lot of times the women are playing the men. So for instance, my main dance partner was a woman. So, they had to make sure that I could partner with a woman and that a woman could partner with me. So it was a little bit of like a two-way audition. And then one more cut and then came back in for the finals. So it was kind of a lengthy multiple step process, but I actually really appreciated that because at each point and each step, I was not only given more time to grow into the role, but also I was learning different things from, tidbits they would drop or drops of knowledge that they would hint at because the production team had literally just done it on Broadway. So it was fresh in their mind. They knew what they wanted. They knew how to help direct you into that. So
great. And yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about your journey, but also about playing Donna Summer. So she is as a black woman, she's such an icon in the music industry in the forefront of change. And what does it mean for you to have played her, and especially like through the lens of the Black Lives Matter movement and getting to play such an important figure? What has that meant to you?
It's meant a lot. It was a heavy weight to carry for a while. And when I first got the call that I booked the show, of course I was like super excited. And then like an hour later, I had like a panic and I was like, oh my God, can I do this? Cause it's a heavy weight, but it's so gratifying to also to have that power. Cause it's very rare that that you get to play. It's very rare that you have a show where there's a woman that's, it's woman centric. There's a woman that's the lead. And then furthermore, that it's a Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And so to get the opportunity to do that was so humbling and so wonderful. And there's a part in the show where Donna's in legal talk because she feels like she's not getting what she deserved from her record company. She feels like they're taking too much off the top, which they were. And she's talking to her lawyer, and he says to her, if anyone can do this, you can. And it's kind of a quick moment in the show. It's kind of tangled within Hard for the Money. But there was one time that it got an applause. And I kind of I kind of want to well up thinking about it now, because it is one of those moments that is such a victory for women and for Black women. And it bleeds over into the industry now, because unfortunately a lot of artists are still having that battle where they're not getting what they deserve, and they're not getting the rights to their masters, and they're not being treated equally, and that's even before getting into Black women. So so it was just one of those moments that I think for me was like a pillar in the show, that you had to get it, but and you had to hear it, and you had to be listening to hear it, but the minute that you heard it, I think that it it affected me definitely. And I hope that it really affected other people as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And going to talk about your journey. So you were born and raised in North Carolina, right? And how did you discover musical theater growing up?
So I started off acting and film and television. And that I just kind of fell into that. There was, like a talent scout situation coming around, and my parents were like, oh, we've got a bubbly kid. Let's see if she likes it. And thankfully it worked out. And I had my first agent when I was 7, and I started doing some smaller projects. And then I did a Barney movie where I did kind of have to sing. It wasn't like I was belting out or anything, but I had to sing a little bit. And I kind of discovered that I enjoyed singing, but I was not good at it at all. Like I would, try to hit these Mariah Carey notes, and my mom was like, you are banned from singing until you get voice lessons. So I started getting voice lessons, then started kind of found my way to dance and started taking dance classes. And so I really kind of entered the world of musical theater late, so to speak. I was pretty much like in my early teens before I really started locking into musicals and pairing the three things together. And then my senior year, I went to the North Carolina School of the Arts, and I actually went for drama, but I was able to keep singing and dancing while I was there. And then I saw a production of Sunday in the Park with George, and I was so blown away. And I was just in the audience like, wow, I want to do what they're doing to make people feel what I'm feeling. And that was the moment that I was like, all right, it's musical theater or bust.
That's great. I actually have a question from a fan that just so when did you know you wanted to be on Broadway? So it sort of ties in. Was it that moment that you really just felt that?
Yeah, that was the moment I knew I wanted to do musical theater. I didn't know that meant Broadway. I had never seen a Broadway show. I saw my first Broadway show I think maybe the year after I graduated high school. So I didn't really know what all Broadway necessarily was, but I knew that I wanted to perform, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And then the first Broadway show I saw was Phantom of the Opera. And I was like, okay, that was pretty cool. So I think that's when the Broadway train kind of, took off.
And did you so about your education path? So you went to school for musical theater, correct?
I got my BFA in musical theater and a minor in dance.
Oh, great. And we have Andres Augustin 04. Sorry, definitely butchered that. It says period in all caps.
Period.
And so you made your Broadway debut in Beautiful, the Carole King musical, and you played Janelle Woods. And I had its pre-Broadway debut here in San Francisco. And
yes.
so we love this musical here. And any special memories from that production? And from
so many special memories. So I had 10 days to from start to finish, from rehearsal to debut, which is a little nerve-wracking.
Mm-hmm.
But I had done a lot of swing work before. So a swing is basically like an understudy for multiple people. And I had done that a lot. So I was used to, learning quick on my feet. And I left the Motown tour on, I think it was a Sunday. I flew home that night and Monday morning started beautiful stuff. So my Broadway debut, I was actually less nervous and panicked about like me looking bad or, making myself look bad or messing up, and more panicked and worried about messing up a Broadway show and messing up, what this cast had already had in place. And I was like, I don't care if I, sing a bad note, but I want to make sure I don't forget a line that you need. So getting through my Broadway debut and not having messed anyone up and just taking that bow and kind of living in that moment. And the cast is so supportive, just super loving and super supportive. That was really amazing. Just that whole day, that whole experience, just getting half hour when you get the call and they tell you who's in the show and who is out, and just hearing making her Broadway debut, Alex Hairston. Moments like that, just amazing and so fulfilling.
Oh, that's great. And we have Ambi2 show says it was a great performance. Beautiful was my favorite.
Oh, it's such a great show, isn't it? It's
Mm-hmm.
such a great show. And I was like, oh, I think I have a pattern going on here from like Beautiful, the Carole King musical, Donna Summer show, just these like bad, fierce women like having these shows that they so deserve for all that they've done. So definitely a really wonderful show.
And Ken Moss says you were so good and beautiful, and Donna.
Kenny, I actually know Kenny. So Kenny was our Barry Gordy in Motown. So hi,
Oh,
Kenny.
great. And so yeah, so you were on the national tour of Motown, the musical, and so what was that experience like?
So that was my first time touring. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I was so excited. So I actually had been doing a lot of cruise ship work, and I was really considering doing another cruise ship because I was in New York. I was auditioning but not booking. I was a broke actor. I was like, what am I gonna do? And I got the call about Motown. And so I actually flew to the tour on Christmas Day.
Mm.
And they were like, okay, you're going to be a swing. And I was like, okay, great. And they're like, okay, you're swinging these 6 women. I'm like, okay, great. I'm all right with that. And it was so fun. I mean, that's the music that I grew up on. My parents are super old school. I didn't know a lot of like new age pop music, but I knew all the Motown stuff. So, so to get to do that and to live in that world was really cool. And I think there's something so special about joining a show that's already kind of been set up because everyone kind of already has their groove. Like I remember watching the show for the first time, the day that I flew in, and being like, oh my God, how am I gonna get to their level, basically, just watching the show and being like, wow, these guys are on it. So that was really challenging and really cool to be like, okay, how are we going to do this? We have 6 women. We got to figure it out. Let's go.
Yeah. And so you've been a part of these productions like Motown and Beautiful and Summer, which celebrates such iconic music. Is there anything, I'm just curious, like if you could create a musical that uses the music of any artist from the past, like what would you want to see, or what would you want to star in if you could be in a musical about someone's or a genre of music?
Ooh, that's good. Okay, genre of music. I mean, I'm a 90s baby, so I would love to see something that just like fulfills all the 90s and early 2000 music dreams. I haven't seen it, but I'm obsessed with the Jagged Little Pill soundtrack, so I can't wait until life is back and going, so I can see that. And although I could never play her for obvious reasons, I'm also obsessed with Marilyn Monroe, which was great because Donna Summer was often compared to Marilyn Monroe. She was kind of known as the Black Marilyn Monroe, so that was kind of cool to do. But yeah, I mean, if there was ever an opportunity for, Smash was becoming a musical, and if there was ever an opportunity for that, that would be cool. But I don't know. I'm excited to be a part of a new work. That's kind of my next goal.
Mhm.
So I would love to be a part of something that kind of is created from the ground up, whether that means it's, a story we haven't heard, or it's taking music that we know and we love to tell a story we haven't heard, or however that ends up. That would be really cool.
Great. And Smiley Miley says you can definitely play her. I think talking about Marilyn Monroe.
I would love that.
um, and yeah, you mentioned we've mentioned that you performed on the Norwegian cruise lines, and I was just curious, what is it like performing performing on a cruise ship? Or yeah, I'm just really curious.
Yeah, it's so different from Broadway. It's so different from tours. The main difference I think is that, or even regional theater, you're typically doing one show, maybe two shows. Like that's what it is. That's the gig.
Hmm.
And cruise ships, you're oftentimes doing three different shows a week, and you
Wow.
might be doing that might change depending on how long your cruise is. So, it's a great learning tool. That's kind of
Hmm.
where I learned how to swing. That's where I learned how to be quick on my feet.
Yeah.
Because even if your route stays the same, meaning even if you're on a week-long cruise that it goes for 6 months, um, then you might be doing two different shows. There might be a cabaret set. It's just all sorts of different things like that. But it's a great way to see the world. I did it
Hmm.
right out of college is when I kind of got started with that, and I got the travel bug hard, and it was cool to get to wake up and walk outside, and I'm suddenly in Barcelona.
Oh wow.
So yeah, that was really magical and so special. I can't wait to travel again. But just to be able to save money as well was amazing
Hmm.
at that stage because,
Hmm.
right out of college, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know where I was going to live.
Hmm.
So for them to be like, oh, you can come live on a ship and eat for free and not pay rent, and
Yeah,
we'll
and
pay
travel.
you to
Yep.
sing. Yeah. So I was like, all right, sounds good. So yeah, that's really cool. It definitely can take a toll on you in other ways with the constant change. I definitely had to find ways to, have my me time and have things that are normal routine,
Hmm.
because you don't get to, always have that consistency and that comfortability that you do at home. But it's so fun and a great way to travel.
Sounds like it. Yeah, I was wondering. I know that we have a lot of people that tune in that are aspiring actors and actresses, and or not aspiring, but they're doing the work and they want to be where you are someday. What are
Yeah.
some advice that you would give to those that are watching?
I would say have have so much respect for what makes you unique. So I
Mm.
think one of the hardest parts for me in in college and in the first stages of my professional career was always feeling like I needed to fit into a mold of what someone else wanted me to be, and then not knowing what that was. And so
Mhm.
just kind of being a confused hot mess. And the as I kind of entered, just as I kind of was entering the world of summer, realizing how okay and then even more necessary it is to be who you are, regardless of the expectation that's on the breakdown or the expectation of the person that did it before you, or whatever that may mean.
Mhm.
So it's like stop comparing yourself to others, which I know is so easier said than done, but that's like across the board in all ways. So not even like, oh, her voice and her sound or whatever, but like you don't need to replicate what someone else did. You don't need to be exactly what the traditional version of that is.
Mhm.
And the more that you get away from that and respect what you already have and who you already are, the stronger of a performer you'll be. Prime example, I came out of college feeling like I was supposed to be this soprano ingenue, because that's what I was told. And
Mhm.
having all these songs in my book that I would go to auditions and be like, I don't want to sing this song. I hate this song. I'm terrified when I sing this song. And I have no confidence when I sing this song. And then them being like, okay, well, do you have a pop song? And I'm like, I mean, okay. And then
Yeah.
suddenly I come alive. And
Mm.
it's like, wait a minute. Okay, this is starting to make sense. when I sing the things that I want to sing, I sound better and I feel better.
Mm.
And when I do the things that I want to do, I come out of my shell and I have more energy and I have more confidence. And so, it's being okay with navigating kind of outside the box of the norm, and loving that and respecting that about yourself will get you so much further. Because I think, especially at times right now, people are more open to not only diversity in, ethnically speaking, but just across the board. They're open to change. They're open to something new, and we want to see something new and something exciting. I think that just repetitious a repetition of something the same gets boring and gets old, So it's like we need new life and we need new color, literally and figuratively, in the arts.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. And it sounds like in talking about new color and new people, it sounds, you just mentioned that you are teaching now, and so yeah, so it's been great seeing how artists nowadays are pivoting into to being able to share their skills in new ways. So what has a shift been for you, to go from performing eight times a week to now sharing what you have learned on your journey with the younger generation?
It's so interesting because I didn't realize how talented kids are and how smart kids are. I think we highly underestimate them. And so it's like they're beginning to teach me in ways. I think, part of acting is trying to be organic and trying to be natural and be a real human in the moment. And I don't think anyone does that better than kids. They just, what comes out of their mouth is what comes out of their mouth. And that is so fun and so funny and so exciting. And I also think that they don't have the insecurities that we form in our late teens, where we're like, oh, I'm worried about what people will think of me. Like, they don't care. These 8-year-olds don't care if you see them cry. They, and that's so beautiful and so wonderful, because they're like, oh, this is what I have to do. Okay, I'm fine. Like, let's do it. Oh, I gotta go be silly. Okay, I'll be silly. Oh, this is a really sad scene. Oh, okay, well, I'm gonna actually be sad. So that's such a cool, exciting thing to witness. So one of the first things I did when I got to the Performing Arts Academy was I directed a production of Rent. And to see like 16 and 17-year-olds not only perform it, but then we would have discussions and they would talk about like how they're literally going through very similar emotions, very similar things, and finding how they fit into the LGBT community and finding how they fit into society, and navigating through relationships about when you have feelings for somebody and then you're torn because of whatever reasons, and just seeing them kind of come into adulthood and being able to express all the things that they're feeling through art is just a reminder about why we kind of do it in the first place. Like art is therapy, whether you know it or want it.
Yeah.
It just is, and it's supposed to create an emotion, and it's supposed to affect you and create change. So I've really loved doing that because it's kind of brought me back to the basics of what acting and what art and performance is and why we do it to begin with.
That's really great. We have a comment. Trey Cotton says, "Shine, Queen," with the crowd emoji.
Hi, Trey.
And yeah, so you're talking about directing a production of Rent for teenagers. I was wondering, because I know that for some people, Rent is their show when they were a teenager that really like got them into musical theater. Was there something that you, or I guess you mentioned something apart with George, but is there another musical that really connected with you, or a piece of theater, or a movie or a TV show when you were growing up that really connected with you?
So actually, one of the reasons I was so gung-ho about directing Rent is because it was a really powerful, impactful show for me. I did it my freshman year of college, and it was kind of crazy because typically freshmen didn't really get lead roles like that, but they brought in a guest director, and he was the dance captain and the angel cover on the tour and on Broadway. So he was just like, I don't know any of you, and I'm just going to cast you off your auditions. And I'm so grateful that he saw, I guess, in me the ability to do a role like that.
Mhm.
You know, as a freshman in college, not really knowing what I was doing and not really even knowing how to quite like belt yet.
Mhm.
And of course, now I watch the video and I'm like, oh my God, I could not have been more flat. But but at the time I was so excited and I was so alive, and it was one of those moments, like one of those kind of premature beginning moments when I really did feel like, oh, this is me, like this is okay, this is my role, you know, like okay,
Mhm.
maybe I'm not necessarily so much made for Kiss Me Kate, but like this, I can do
This is,
this.
yeah.
So yeah, so that was definitely one of the shows that I remember being in the rehearsals and just performing and just like hearing like Out Tonight start and being like, okay, or just, you know, getting to just like belt my whole soul out on stage, whether it was on the pitch or not. So yeah, loved that.
Oh, that's great. That's great that you're having this full circle moment where now you're the
Yeah.
ones that are guiding
Hmm.
these people starting their journey. So that's really great.
Yeah, I love when that happens.
And we have another question from a fan here. This is um, has there ever been an instant where you felt doubt as you progressed into your passionate career? This is from Andres Augustine 04.
Absolutely. So many times. So I remember even as a kid, like being the kid actor, you know, being like, I don't really know if this is for me anymore. And then my mom being like, no, just like, just keep going. Just, you know, it'll come. Like, you know, there's success will come. Rome wasn't built in a day. And then it
Mhm.
started getting to the point where it was like, okay, now we've sacrificed so much. It's like, we're going there. Like, we're just going to keep pushing. We're going to keep going. And I'm so grateful for that because obviously like it's the reason I am the way I am and have what I have. And even then again, you know, be like I said, being in New York and not booking audition after audition after audition with not even a callback, so just being like, wow, I don't know if this is really for me. And then just that life kicks in and it's like, here's Motown, the absolute perfect show for you, you know. So many times when you know, I'll be on this, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna get through this, I don't know if this is right, you know, you're weighing the options like, okay, this today was a good day, today was a bad day, they're starting to do this.
Mhm.
So I think lots of times, but at the end of the day, there's nothing that makes me feel like performing does. And even if there are times like I could go for weeks and be like, I don't feel like singing a note. But then, you know, I'll find that one song and I'll go to sing it and I'll be like, wow, okay, yeah, this is why I sing, you know?
Mhm.
So it's just, it's not always, it's not going to be an everyday, this is definitely what I want to do. I love this. I love every moment of it. Like that's not real. That's not real in
Mhm.
any job, in any profession, in any hobby. There's going to be times that you're like, you're over it. I don't think this is what I want. I don't think this is for me.
Yeah.
But I think that if you then remind yourself, or then you know, you find those moments when you're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, this is what I'm meant to do, then that's what it is. I mean, I didn't get into any musical theater schools when I first auditioned for college because I had barely done musical theater and I auditioned for the
Mhm.
Boston Conservatory and the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. Like, what was I thinking? Talk about overachiever, right? And so I took a year off after college,
Mhm.
after high school. Took a year off and I didn't do any musicals. I didn't do theater. I kept taking dance classes because it just like kept me going.
Mhm.
But I was like, all right, if after a year I miss this and I really want it, then I'm gonna go back and try again. And that's what happened. The year came to a close and I was like, okay, I miss it.
That's great. That's yeah, that shows that yeah, if you have that passion and that drive, you'll find ways to make it work. If it's not working out right now, then you can work on those skills and try again. And that's really wonderful to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and have there who like yeah, you talking about finding that inspiration. Are there people in your life who is it that inspires you and motivates you? Either people that you know or people out in culture. Um, yeah.
Yeah, so many people. Just I just immediately go back to the summer cast and again just watching these women. Just I wasn't in the first two numbers and
Mhm.
I would sometimes get ready early and just go stand in the wings and just watch. Because when you that same passion and fire that I feel when you witness it into another person, it starts to refuel you, you know, and you kind of maybe play tag team with that. So most of the time, my coworkers and the other talent around me absolutely inspires me, fuels that fire. My partner, we actually met doing Motown. He's also a performer. He continuously inspires me. This quarantine, he has literally taught himself editing, like gone on YouTube, downloaded programs, and taught himself how to edit videos. And I'm like, I could never do that. I sometimes don't know how to turn my phone on. So, so that's also inspiring too, just to see someone being like, okay, I'm not going to sit here and do nothing. I'm going to be productive. So many people, my parents constantly inspire me, just all the sacrifices my mom went through and to help me get where I am. My dad is a pancreatic cancer survivor who is annoyed that he can't eat ice cream every day, but like, you know, you just get through it. And so tons of people who constantly just hit these roadblocks and then decide, well, instead of turning around, I'm going to take a little side path and keep on going. I love meeting those people.
That's really great. It sounds like you have a really great support system
Yes.
around you, both at work and at home, which is really wonderful.
Very lucky.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We've had such a great time chatting with you. And is there anything else that you want to share about your experience in summer, the Donna Summer Musical, or about what you're working on, or what you envision for the future, anything like that?
Well, I just want to say thank you for everyone who saw the show and everyone who's tuning in now and everyone who's just supporting theater in general. I think this is one of those times when it's become even more apparent that we need art in the world, and that has to trickle down to, you know, letting your kids take a dance class, even if you're nervous about it. And you know, like, and that's not saying that you're expecting them to go be Misty Copeland, but I think that art will better your life no matter what you decide to do with it, whether it's just communication skills or team building or an emotional outlet, whatever that is. So just encouraging art from the bottom up. You know, we need new artists, we need new creators, we need new life. So definitely encouraging that. And thank you for supporting the theater and going to shows. And there's going to be lots of streamable shows coming out now. There's Broadway on Demand and things like that. So just sharing those things and supporting those things. Remembering when you bought movie tickets and you paid $20 per ticket, well, maybe you can pay $20 once and your whole family can sit down and watch a musical. So just thank you for that, and spread the arts and vote.
Yes, vote. And
Vote.
Smiley says, yes, we absolutely need the arts.
Yes.
We got a thumbs up from AMB2 show. And yeah, it's been really great. And it's been really great to see how you have used this moment in time to pivot and to share what you've learned to the next generation, and to keep that support for the arts and instill that into the younger generation. It's been really great to see, and I'm excited to see where you go next, and where we can see you on stage and on our computers.
Yes, me too.
Great. And so people can follow you if they want to check out what you're doing at Alexis as usual. Correct?
Alex as usual. I know I should make the middle A capital, but Alex as usual. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Alex as usual. Well, Alex Hairston, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
we really
you.
appreciate your time. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Bye. Have a good day.
Bye. Thanks, Alex.